little bit when it's something that comes up or you get a windfall and you put that money in the bank? Or are you a steady saver? What type of spender are you? Do you spend your whole check until it's gone and then you're waiting for the next check to come in? Or do you not spend at all? Do you hold on to your money so tightly that you never enjoy anything out of life? Well, those are the things you want to think about too, because those things make you who you are. And if you're happy in your lifestyle with your money or not, those things come into play. So the first thing I thought about was a roadmap. What are the things that are really most important that you need to be looking at when you're thinking about your money? So the first thing on my roadmap is to estimate your retirement income needs. And people always say, oh, you need about 80% of your income when you retire. That may or may not be true. It depends on your lifestyle. If when you retire, you're going to be traveling all over the world, then you might need more money. If you're just going to take an occasional trip or maybe spend money on your grandkids, you may not need as much. Second thing is to set a retirement nest egg. Think realistically about what you need to have and start working towards that. You also need to calculate the required monthly savings, meaning that how much should you be saving each month to meet that goal. You may start small. You may be saving maybe $100 a month this time. A year from now, you get a promotion or whatever, and you're saving $200 a month. But figure out what that needs to look like. The next thing is to prepare you for financial emergencies. And everybody has an emergency. Your car breaks down, your tire goes out, something always comes up. And so you need to have some money put aside for that financial emergency. You also need to plug holes in your insurance coverage. First off, do you even have insurance? Because I know everybody thinks that they're going to live forever, but the reality is that you won't. So you need to have insurance. The next thing is to decide how much house you can afford. If you're going to buy a house, if you've been saving and you want to get something, I'm telling you, the mortgage people will try to sell you something more than you can afford. They'll tell you that you can afford X when you really know that you can only afford Z. So think about how much money that you need and how much house that you can really afford. Next, aim to retire debt-free. So if you retire with no credit card debt, the house is paid off, then you don't need as much money in your retirement. So make that your goal. Next thing is to decide when to claim Social Security. Everybody thinks, oh, Social Security, I'll do it when I'm 62 to get it right away. The longer you wait, believe it or not, the more money you get. Every year past the age of 62, it goes up about 8%. Where can you get money like that? Nowhere. So if you can hang on to your full retirement at 66 and a half, then do that. If you can go even longer to 70, even better. And then the last thing, give some thought to your heirs. Meaning that, is there something that you want to leave behind for your children? And it may not always have to be money. It could be advice. It could be living a life worth living that your children will want to emulate. But think about what you want to leave for your heirs. Did you know that people typically spend so much money every year on family? Because people have their hands out, they need things, they want things. Sometimes people have grown children living in the house and they're supporting them. On average, and this is a U.S. average, people spend over $6,500 a year giving loans to these people. If you're one of those people, think about that money that you're giving to them. Is it really serving a purpose? Is it really helping them? It may not be helping you because it's taking money away from your income and your retirement savings. So think about how you're distributing money. Think about why you're doing it. Your finances. As life expectancy increases, Americans have to fund their retirements a lot longer. When Social Security was originally created, people assumed that after 65, folks would probably die before they hit 70. So it was great to have a Social Security system put in place because people wouldn't be taking a lot of money out of it. Well, guess what? Life expectancies have gone up. And so people may live 30 years after they retire. So you should be thinking about how much money you're saving. People will tell you, and this is a statistic, that 25% of the people out there are saving heavily for their retirements. But the reality is that only about 5% are really saving the way they should. So take a look at your finances and think about places where you can make those inroads to save more money. You've heard FICO, FICO, FICO all over the place, but how many of you really know what a FICO score means? Well, your FICO credit score is a score that's a system that's used in the United States to determine how good your credit score is, and it's based on 5 factors. It's based on how much you owe, the type of credit that you've obtained, any new credit that you get, and the length of your credit history. So if you've had a credit card for 10 years, that length of history shows on your FICO and it increases your score. And your payment history, and that's 35% of your overall score. So if you're paying every month on time with no issues, that builds your credit score. If you pay your bills off every month, it builds it even more. So those are the things that encompass your FICO score. The meanings for these, your FICO score, and it indicates to anybody who's trying to loan you some money what the score means to you and to them. So if your FICO score is less than 640, that's considered a very low score, and you can struggle to try to get credit. People may give you credit, but they're going to charge you a higher interest rate for it. If your score is anywhere from 641 to 680, this is a pretty reasonable score, and you can get a better interest rate. Now, if your rate is from 681 to 720, this is considered a good score, and you should get a good credit score or credit lines. If your score is above 721, this is considered excellent, and you should have no problems whatsoever trying to get credit. If you go to a lender and you know your score is over 721 and they're trying to give you a high interest rate, there's something else going on there, because it's certainly not about your rate. So tell them, this is my rate and I expect a better score, and I expect a better interest rate from you. If they don't give that to you, then go somewhere else. I talked earlier about a need or a want, if you understood the difference between those. So let's take a look at, I have a list of things here that I consider needs or wants. Maddie Penny, that's a want. Cable, believe it or not, that's a want. Although people swear by their cable and they don't want to live without it, but it's a want. Basic phone service, that's a need. You need to be able to communicate. All kind of emergencies can come up. You need to have a basic phone service. It's not talking about all the bells and whistles, but something basic. Starbucks, it's a want. Health insurance, it's a need. Because people think we're never going to get sick, but guess what? You're in the hospital systems from the moment that you're born. If you're born in a hospital, if you die in a hospital, you need health insurance. Child support, that's a need. People need to be able to pay for good child support so that they can go to work. Child care, it's a need. Birthday presents, believe it or not, it's a want. You might be saying that's cruel not to give children a birthday present or whatever, but I talk about that a little bit later in terms of what category that fits in, but it really is a want. Mortgage, your rent, that's a need. Gym memberships, that's a want. People might say, but I need to exercise. Yeah, you do, but it doesn't need to be in a gym. After school activities, that's a want. Yeah, we want to keep our children active, but that costs money, and that's a want. Years ago, I talked about financial literacy with a group of people, and I shared this spending wheel with them, and I actually got this from the Oprah Winfrey Show when they did the Debt Diet shows. And it basically broke down the categories of where people need to be spending their money. And over the years, people have used this, but I'll tell you, I found something that was a little more streamlined, because this can be really complex. So what I did was something else. I read a book by Elizabeth Warren and her daughter called All Your Worth. And it basically talks about a budget, building a lifetime money plan. But if you look at their spending, so much simpler. It's broken into 3 categories: the essentials, savings, and lifestyle choices. So the essentials would be your housing, your utilities, groceries, and transportation. 50% of the income that you bring home, and I'm not talking about your gross income, I'm talking about your net after taxes are all taken out. 50% of that should go for housing. So if you are in a house and you're spending more than 50% of your income just to live in there, you're house poor, because that's more house than you can afford. And that's something that we talked about earlier. 20% should go for savings and retirement. Typically, people say save 10%. Well, I explained to you why it's the 20%. The next category is 30%, and that's lifestyle choices. And that's everything else that you would consider fun should go in that category. So when I mentioned about the wants in terms of the mani-pedi or going to Starbucks or the after-school activities for your children, those will go in lifestyle choices in that 30%. So I'm not saying that you can't do those things, but that's where they would fit in. And if you want to spend your lifestyle choices on those kind of things or anything else that you think is as fun, that's fine, because that's what that 30% is for. The 20% for savings is certainly for savings for that emergency, savings for your retirement. But that saving is also, if you have credit card debt, then you're borrowing against your future. And guess what? That credit card payment comes out of your saving and retirement. So if you don't have credit card debt, then you can spend 20% of your income going to savings to build your resources higher and higher. But if you've got credit card debt, that comes in that category of the 20%, and you're borrowing against your future. So this book talks about making a budget. But again, if you use those categories, a budget doesn't have to be restrictive, because you can do the things that you want out of that 30% category. But these are the things that you need to think about when you're doing a budget. So your home, how much is your mortgage? Entertainment, because you need to be able to have some fun. It can be inexpensive fun, but some things to make your life happy. You need food. You need health care. You need transportation to get you from point A to point B. You need insurance. You need clothes. You need gifts, pet care, taxes, education, personal business. All of those things are a part of your budget. There may be other things that you put into your budget, and that's fine. But these are some of the things that I thought that were the basics. So once you think about your finances and you look at all of the different areas where you want to make some inroads, you want to create a goal to get there. So you want to put together your financial goals, and setting those goals is a process, and each one of us requires a few simple things to look at that. When you're making your goals, you want to identify the goal, set a deadline for achieving it, and be as specific as possible. If you've ever heard of SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, relatable, and time-bound, meaning that it's very specific, you set that target, and this is when you hope to achieve it. You want to estimate the cost of the goal, either in terms of time and or money. You want to break down the total cost into monthly amounts that are required to meet your goal, and identify specific actions or tasks that you'll take to reach it. And you want to track your progress. It's no point of setting a goal and not looking at it for a year. So you want to track it. Creating a goal. Now, I have a little worksheet that I use for it, and it's pretty straightforward. So in using this, I set up, as an example, setting up an emergency fund. So my emergency fund, I want to create it. That's the goal. I want to do it in 18 months. I want to save $10,000. And if I save $556 a month, in 18 months, I'm going to have that. So the goal could be anything that you want it to be, but again, if you want to make it specific, like I'm showing here, these are the things that you want to map out. So maybe your emergency fund isn't $10,000, maybe it's $5,000, or maybe it's $2,000, or maybe it's even to have $500, because I read a survey recently that said that majority of people in the United States don't even have $1,000 for an emergency. That is a very sad statement to make. But maybe that's where you want to start. Maybe you want to have $1,000 saved and keep it in your checking account so you never have an overdraft again, and it's there for any emergency that comes up. Then create that goal for that. Put that in this goal sheet and look at how long it'll take you. If you have to save $10 a month to get there, then do that. But you have to start. So create a goal for yourself. So I talked about keeping it real. So this is what I mean about keeping it real, and these are some beliefs that I have. So if you have a $500 emergency and you have to use a credit card or call a family member, then you have a bigger problem than that emergency. That tells me that you don't even have $500 in the bank to help yourself. $20,000 of term life insurance on family members. And what I mean by that is that you will have to pay to bury them, so it's a sound investment. We all have a relative who we know probably doesn't have any money put aside, who doesn't have any insurance. And when that person passes, because we're all going to go that way, everybody's pooling their money to try to put things together for them to have a proper burial. So get some term insurance. Term insurance is all you need, and it's extremely cheap. I don't encourage anybody to buy whole life insurance. Get the term insurance. Term insurance is usually the answer for protecting your family against early death and income replacement. If somebody is giving you advice about your retirement funds and selling you something at the same time, ask them what their financial incentives are and determine if their advice is really about you or are they just trying to make some money. Executing an advance directive, a will, or a living trust is a gift for your family, so don't be selfish. If you have a house and you don't have a will or a trust, you're doing a disservice to your family. I'll give you an example. Here in the state of Illinois, if you die and you have a home and your children expect to get that, if you didn't do a will, it's got to go to probate, which means a lawyer has to take it to a court to have a judge sign off on it, and it can take up to 9 months. So you can't sell that house for 9 months, but you have to keep the lights on, you have to pay the property taxes or everything else, or you'll lose that house. If you just have a will, still got to go to probate, and it can take 6 months. If you have a trust, the day you die, the trust can be signed over to the children, whoever you put in the trust name, and they get the house right away and they can sell it right away. So that's why I say don't be selfish. Make it easy for your heirs to take care of those things. The next thing, drawing Social Security as soon as possible. If you're tired of working and you just can't be there any longer, doesn't mean take your retirement early. Don't take Social Security too early because you do a disservice to yourself. The longer you let it sit in there, the longer you let it go to your full retirement age, the more money you're going to get. And my last belief, a goal without a plan is just a wish. So hopefully some of the things that I've talked about will be helpful to you and to give you some things to think about. If you want to make comments about this or you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd be happy to answer you. Thank you so much and have a fabulous day.